Eva Montebello, and thank you for joining us at Love Talks. I have a very special guest today. Her name is Cami Baker, and she has written an amazing book called Mingle to Millions. And I think what we're going to talk about is a whole bunch of different things regarding online dating and what works and what doesn't work, but also how to promote yourself as a celebrity brand when you're on a dating app. So really, really powerful tools they're business tools, but we're going to integrate them into our love lives. So Cami, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, my bestie.
Awesome. Now tell me, what do you think about celebrity brands and being online and meeting people online? What is your whole thought process about that?
You know, I actually did a Facebook Live about 6 months ago about how does online dating compare and mimic marketing in your business. And let's face it, when you're doing online dating, you are marketing the one commodity that you have. No matter what you do in your life, if you're online, you're in sales.
Right.
You're in marketing for that one thing, and that's you.
Exactly.
So why not present yourself, your one commodity, in the best light possible?
Yep.
And don't put a picture of your kitty cat or your motorcycle or the sunset. Unless you're selling travel packages, you don't need those kind of photos.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. What photos have you seen? What photos do you think that work?
Well, photos that work are ones that are clear of the face, no sunglasses.
Yeah.
You know, not the blurry ones, not the ones that are clearly a photo from 10 years ago that you've taken a picture of the photo with your cell phone.
Picture of a picture.
You know, so here we are online, and you're wanting to sell the one thing that is more important than anything else in your life, you. Make a good first impression. Get some professional photos, you know. It doesn't have to be in a studio all studious, but you know, take some decent photos. It's so important.
Yeah, you think you should do a full body shot?
Absolutely, 1000%. And no matter what you look like, no matter how much you weigh, no matter how old you are, how much hair you got, be honest.
Right.
Because you're gonna meet them.
Exactly, exactly.
I haven't really run into that much. From my side, from looking at probably 100,000 profiles.
Yep.
I don't see that men are very different from their photos, but I hear that women are.
You know what? I hear that too. Do people when you show up on a date, do people go, "Oh my gosh, you look like your photo"? That happens to me. You know.
Yeah.
Wow, you look just like your photo. It's such a funny thing.
Yeah, I actually went out on a date last night, and the guy was telling me, you know, some of the horror stories that he's heard from other women and the things that they see online.
Yeah. Now, what about the written part? What do you think needs to be in the written part? You know, walks on the beach is so cliche, you know?
I had a mentor a few years ago who was a medicine woman, and she would say, sprinkle some skunk medicine on it, meaning put right out there what they need to know. So for example, I don't drink.
Yep.
So in my profile, I put, I don't drink.
Yep.
I put, if you want to have a drink, that's great. If you need a drink and you can't make it through the day without a drink, pass.
Yeah.
You know? So I just put it right out there because so not only does it help me avoid a lot of things that would be an issue, but if there's a guy that I tag and he doesn't tag me back, I just think to myself, oh, he must just be an alcoholic, doesn't want to go outside. It makes me feel better.
Right. Well, I mean, as much as you'd like to say, you know, the old adage, you have to kiss a lot of frogs. Thank you for, you know, not having me kiss you. You know, thanks for taking yourself off my list.
Don't waste the time.
Exactly.
And you know, and I've actually had people, because I post a lot of stuff on Facebook about my online dating escapades, people will reach out and say, hey, will you look at my profile and help me out with this? Don't put anything that's negative, meaning people focus, I don't want somebody who has this, or I don't want that. Let's not, because sometimes I'll find myself wanting to put, you know, don't contact, if all you can say is, hi, how are you? Don't contact. But instead, I'll rephrase it, you know, I'm looking for someone who can have interesting, engaging conversation. Intelligent conversation is important to me. So don't put what you don't want, put what you do want.
You know, and you're getting right into the law of attraction, you know what I mean? And it's like, whether you put a not in front of it or not, that's what's going to show up. You know, it's almost like the conversation. You know, I have a girlfriend, and she always says, "Oh, I date such jerks," and I'm like, "Why don't you change your conversation and speak something new into the world?"
Well, you know, and something else about that is, we as human beings want to be consistent. So when she says, "All I ever meet are jerks," she literally is attracting jerks so that she's right.
Exactly.
So she's proving herself right because in her soul, she wants to be consistent with what she says.
Right.
So when you say, you know what, I attract jerks, then a jerk comes to make sure you're right about that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does, but I think, you know, having been out with her like a whole bunch of times, like will have been talking to a guy and she'll be like, God, he's such a jerk. And I was like, and I'm like, he seemed perfectly lovely to me, you know? So sometimes I think you're right about it, is whether he's great or whether he's a jerk, he's not going to get past that filter.
Well, you know what? Perception is reality, and Dr. Wayne Dyer says, you know, when you change the things you focus on, how's it go? I'm messing it up. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yes.
So when I was in my drinking days, I thought everybody drank. I thought everybody was at the bar. I thought everybody was dropping the F-bomb and smoking cigarettes and partying and messing around. Come to find out, no, that was just people I was hanging out with.
Right.
When I changed the way I looked at things, when I got sober, and I wanted to find good, clean stuff to do, because I thought, oh my God, I get sober, my life's gonna be so boring, I'm gonna be hanging out in a church basement every night of my life. But come to find out, you know what, there's actually some really good, decent people. I didn't see them because I wasn't looking for them.
Right. And I think you have more fun than anybody that I know.
Yeah. Well, and that's why in my profile, when I say that I don't drink, I make sure that I'm clear that I'm not a prude, I'm not uptight, I'm not, you know, Bible thumping or something.
Right.
My preference is I don't drink.
Right.
You want to have a drink, that's great.
Right.
But if you need it every day and you can't live without it, then you're not for me, that's all.
Right.
Not judgmental.
I love it. Do you have any good horror stories?
Oh my God.
Give me your best.
Well, this is public TV, so.
Here, I'll tell you one of my horror stories first, and you can think. So I was on a date, and I was in between jobs, and it was back when remember when the dot-coms crashed and everybody in high tech lost their job? I was part of that group. And so I didn't have a lot of money, and I had an apartment and a fancy car and all this stuff, because I was living the high tech lifestyle. And so I went out to the Ritz, remember the Ritz in Boston? And this guy proceeds to order like literally like 7 drinks, one drink after the other. And I think I was on like my first drink. And I was like, oh my gosh, do you really need another drink? Like I'm not typically that person. And then he got up and he ended up stiffing me with the bill. Yeah. And when you're like in between jobs, you know, and you're already stressed out, that was like the worst date ever. That was like a Match.com story like a million years ago.
Well, one of my first dates was a guy that he ordered a beer, I ordered a Diet Coke. He said, you don't drink? I said, no, I don't drink. About 3 beers in, he said, you really don't drink? No, I don't drink. A couple hours later, about 7 beers in, he says, you just don't drink, do you? I said, well, would you rather have me clean and professional and well-spoken and in control of myself, or drunk and sloppy and all over the place? He says, well,
kind of like you.
He says, well, I like something in between.
Oh my goodness.
And I had to pick him up because he had lost his driver's license due to DUI.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So the biggest story that I could tell you is about when I met someone online that was living across the country.
Yep.
And I lived in the Boston area, he lived in Washington State. Yep. And I thought, well, we'll get to know each other. This gives me a chance to just meet him, you know? Yep. 10 days later, texting. 10 days later, I jump on a plane, I go out to Washington. Oh my God. I meet him within the week of being there. I love you, I can't live without you, don't live without me, please don't live without me. Sell everything I own, move to Washington State within 30 days.
Oh my gosh.
I actually brought him back and introduced him to all my friends and proclaimed my love forever, and moved out to Washington, $1,100 to ship my car out there to be with him. And long story short, 7 months later, I was escaping when his back was turned and drove back across the country to get away.
Oh my goodness. So what's the lesson?
Well, you know what? Actually, there's something good that comes out of everything if you look for it that way.
Yeah.
It's made me a better person in a lot of ways. It's made me a better coach and mentor.
Yeah.
I'm much more compassionate because I'm such a strong woman. People say, how could somebody like you get caught up in a narcissistic kind of gaslighting? It was all... I never knew what gaslighting was. It exists, big time. So I'm educated on that. Yeah. And I used to, when women would say, oh, I can't go, he won't let me or whatever, I would say, girl, you get out and go do your thing. But now I get it.
Right.
Now I understand what it's like to be underneath someone's thumb.
Right.
And the other lesson I got out of it was when you are free as a bird, and you've always done anything you wanted to, when your freedom is taken away, ouch. Now that I have my freedom back, it's been 1.5 years since I've been out of that relationship, but I feel so like just grateful just to be able to get in my car and just be able to drive and turn my music on, open the sunroof, and not have to tell anybody where I'm going.
Right. It's like you can breathe again.
Sucking the life force right out of my body, and I would say to him, "You're sucking the life out of me. You have to let me breathe."
Yeah.
And it was either leave or just totally be sucked in and just let go of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my biggest story.
Yeah, that is a good story. Oh my gosh. So what about success stories? You know, I mean, even if it doesn't work in the, you know, your relationship world,
I have had some of the most interesting dates. I've gone out with an MMA world champion fighter.
Geez.
That was very interesting. Pulled his phone out, he showed me his winning fight, and he showed me how he took the guy down. That was
You should have been like, I can wrestle you. Just kidding.
I've gone out with guys who have written screenplays that you've seen the movie for. I've just had some of the most interesting relationships.
Yeah.
I've had 3 7-month relationships from online, each one very interesting. An actor model was one of them, who has the lowest self-esteem in the world.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You'd think an actor has.
I went out with a guy who had written a novel that thick about human trafficking.
Oh, wow.
And he could pull up his phone and tell you every place where there was child pornography and human trafficking and slavery. So I've had a lot of really interesting experiences. One thing I do want to focus on is asking questions.
Yeah.
There is an epidemic of people that cannot create conversation.
Yeah.
And I really got clear on this. And so how does it translate into business? Communication's communication, right?
Right.
So when you can ask someone a question, 3 major things happen. Number 1, it shows you have interest.
Yep.
Shows you have interest. Number 2, you guide the conversation.
Right.
So when you make a comment like, "Hey, I hope you had a great weekend," well, that's the end of it.
Right.
You know? But when you can ask a question, you can guide it and continue the conversation.
Right.
And the third thing about asking questions is you can create action.
Right.
Because if you say, "Well, I hope we get together sometime," business or professional or personal, "I hope we get together sometime," that doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
"I'd love to get together with you. I'm free tonight, or is Friday better?"
Right.
Question. Give them a choice.
Right.
It's so important. And as I was coming up with this, I did a Facebook Live about it too. I thought to myself, because I have a relationship coach too.
Yeah.
I teach her business relationships, and
Yeah.
she teaches me personal relationships
Nice.
because she's in her 70s. She's magical. Angeline Hart, Gorilla Love book. And she's that role model figure that I never had growing up. You know, we just don't have it as much as we used to.
Right.
And I was thinking, well, gosh, if they're not asking me questions, should I be thinking that they're not interested? But the fact is, a lot of people just don't know how to have a conversation.
Right.
Like I can imagine somebody with their phone looking at my pictures or your pictures or anybody's, "I want to talk to them, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say, I don't know."
Right.
So just because they're not asking a question doesn't mean they're not interested, but when you ask a question, it shows you are interested.
Right.
So ladies and gentlemen, if there's somebody that you're interested in, don't wait for them.
Right.
Don't wait for them. And the whole thing about, well, men should ask you out first and women should be passive. Listen, we all have our own way of looking at that. But to me, you know, they're afraid.
Right.
A lot of them are flat out afraid to make the first move.
Right.
And you know, just because I send the message first and say, "Hey, you have lovely photos, what do you do for work?"
Right.
Something to get it started. And 1-word answers stink.
Oh my gosh, the worst.
Especially, I can't tell you how many, 100,000 profiles, and I'm being very kind to myself that it's not more than that. So many guys that say they're in sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Sales and marketing. You're in sales and marketing and that's how you're marketing you?
Right.
You need to get fired from whatever you do. So this one guy said, you know, so I said, "What do you do for work?" He writes me back, 1-word answer, sales.
Yeah.
And I pondered it, and I actually took a screenshot of it and I put it on Facebook. I said, "See, this is what I'm dealing with here."
Right.
Sales. So I wrote him back, I said, "So you're in sales and you can't give me more than a 1-word answer. What are you selling that you must be broke selling?" You know,
Right.
horrible.
What did he say?
I deleted him.
Oh.
He wrote something back, ha ha ha, you know, but he just didn't know what to say.
Right. And I think that's the other thing, I'm on all these like women dating groups giving each other advice, and it's interesting about the bad behavior out there. Because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, do men online act like this because women have behaved badly, or are they the ones that are behaving badly that have women behave badly? Like where's the whole line of behaving badly show up?
Let's face it, we attract what we're putting out. One thing I learned in sobriety, with the drinking, with the pills, with all of it, I had to take responsibility for my side. I had to take responsibility and clean up my own side of the street. Nobody was pushing it in my mouth. Nobody, So we all have to take responsibility for everything. Everything good, bad, or indifferent in your life, you created.
Yep.
But that's great news.
Right.
Because if I created it, that means I can create whatever I want. How did I go from a year and a half ago, driving across the country, broke, busted, and disgusted, beat down? I mean, when I was with that guy, I got to where I didn't even look people in the eye, because if I looked you in the eye, he would say, well, how do you know them?
Right.
Let me get your phone. Are you texting them? Are you talking to them?
Oh my gosh.
So I just quit even looking people, I quit looking people in the eye.
Right.
So how is it a year and a half later, I've been able to, resume six-figure income, new car, all that stuff, is because I took responsibility.
Right.
There was a lot of things that he did that wasn't right, but ultimately there was a lot of things that I did that wasn't right,
For you, right?
What business did I have jumping on a plane 10 days after meeting someone? And now, I take full responsibility for that too, because I'm a human being, and animals need, want, desire, love. We are social creatures.
Right.
And I wanted to be in love. I wanted to be loved. I thought this was going to be perfect love, all that kind of stuff. So, but I really had no business flying across country and then selling my stuff and moving within 30 days, so I had to take my ownership for that. So everybody has to.
Right. But good or bad, it's always about like, what's my next decision? What's my next choice,
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, I see a lot of these women say, oh, this guy I'm dating, he, texts me once a week, and I'm always like, why are you with him then?
Right.
There are,
Well, there was a guy that I met last summer, we never talked, we texted a little bit, and then he disappeared. He's actually a speaker and a physical trainer. He's videos online, etc. Well, a couple of weeks ago, he sends me a message on Facebook, so we started interacting. We text, he actually called me one time, but it was really surface stuff, like I've never met this guy, and it was, how are you? How's your day? I hate that. Like, if you can't come up with anything better than that, we need to just stop.
Right.
And his mother's sick in the hospital, and he's sending me photos of his mom.
Oh.
And he's, and I'm like, so I sent him a message a couple of days ago, and I said, look, I said the small talk would be a lot more meaningful if I actually knew you.
Right.
And if I don't know you, it's not necessary. So let's get on a video chat today and get to know each other.
Right.
If not, no worries. Keep doing great things in the world.
Right.
And I never heard from him again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you. I don't need to see pictures of your 90-year-old mother in the hospital. I don't know you or her.
Right.
So if you can't talk to me and want to build a relationship with me, then thank you. Have a great day.
Right. But you're also not looking for a pen pal.
That's what I said.
I don't have the time or the energy.
I said, I feel like this is a modern day pen pal situation. It's exactly what I said, and it's so true. Why do all that texting with somebody you don't know? And that's why I want to meet somebody within a couple of days, week at the tops.
Right. I agree.
I am not texting a stranger for how people get catfished. How can you go, especially now, there's so much video.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, if I think a profile is fake, and there's a lot of fake profiles, if I think a profile is fake, I'll say, listen, we need to video chat.
Yeah.
And if they say no, my camera's broke, I don't know how, I don't have internet, whatever the junk is that they come up with, I'm delete.
But see, in this day and age, if you don't know how to video chat, or if you don't know, you don't have a camera somewhere, I'm like, what rock are you living under?
They're so full. Well, that's why you know.
Exactly.
And so now I'll mess with them, because there's something about photos that have been, there's some that have a look. And don't get me wrong, I've dated two guys from online that were professional models.
Yeah.
Professional photo. My photos online are professional. But they can't be very fake. So I'll say, okay, let's video chat. And then if they send something back, I'll say, wait a minute, let me guess. Your camera's broke. You don't have internet.
Yep.
Your mom's sick, and you need me to send you $500 so you can come see me. Like what? And then I just get rid of them.
See, I don't know how anybody sends money. Like that is like, I feel like everybody has been warned against that, and you just can't do it.
But they must be, because they still keep doing it. They still keep asking for it on Craigslist. There was a whole lot of scam with that going on back in the day. But you know, when you talk about the women's groups that are basically a bitch session, like, you know, I have no interest in that. I don't want to talk about the negative. I mean, I could tell you a ton of horror stories, but ultimately every one of them was a learning experience. I lived through every one of them. I haven't been raped or hurt or held hostage other than what was going on in Washington, which really was emotional hostage. But it was all a great learning experience.
Yeah, we're actually going to do a show on these women groups and about like the major mistakes that women make, kind of generally speaking, not from anybody from Haverhill, just in general.
Here's a good story. I was out in Phoenix about a month ago. Guy with lots of pilots that are online. This guy was this guy.
Really?
Yeah, this guy wasn't just a pilot. He was an aviator. Found out that aviators actually live that lifestyle. They have their own plane, and they like. So he says, do you want to take my plane to dinner? You want to take the plane ride to dinner? And I said, yes, because I'm 50 years old. I grew up in the street. I'm pretty street smart. I'm good. I can handle myself. Now, if we'd have gotten up in that plane and he started going for the Mexican border, I don't know what the hell I would have done. But anyway, he comes and he picks me up. He had a nice Beamer, and he picks me up. We go to the airport, and sure enough, he has a plane. And I sent a text to my friend. I said, listen, I'm getting ready to get on a plane with this guy that I don't know. She literally asked me, so I took a picture of his driver's license and I texted it to her. I said, if I disappear, this is who I'm with. This was back in September, October. I did a Facebook Live. You can go on my Facebook page and see it. And I did a Facebook Live while we were up in the plane. So we leave from the Phoenix airport. We cruise around for about 30 minutes, landed what would have been maybe an hour drive away, was a 10-minute airplane ride away. Had a lovely dinner. Came back to the airport, and that was that. Well, there was no chemistry. When I kissed him, it was like my brother, and I thought, oh my God, I don't have time to fix this. But anyway, that was a fun story.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any fantastic first date stories like that. That's a great one, though.
I flew to meet another guy one time, too, a couple years ago, but I've done a lot of crazy stuff.
You have an airplane thing. Big fan of traveling. I love to travel.
I am a big fan of traveling, and there's something in me that wants to like do something outrageous to show them how I'm not afraid, and how I'll do just about anything to have fun.
You are so funny. I'm like the opposite. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to meet in public, and you know, I text my 12 girlfriends their profiles so I don't get murdered. You and I, as like friendly as we both are, we have like different dating styles.
Well, you know, this guy that I went out with last night is actually a police officer, and I'm kind of all the crazy things I've done, I'm kind of reserved. Like, I don't know if I want to go out with the police officer, because if you have a problem, who are you going to call? His friends?
Right.
You know, and it doesn't matter if you live in the same city or not, they're all connected.
Exactly.
So I'm like, but he's worth a shot. So.
Yeah, he seems nice.
Yeah.
He seems nice. So what about, let's talk about Mingle to Millions. Love that book. I have to tell you, every time I get stuck on it though, I read a chapter and I'm like, I'm going to go out and try this in the real world. Like, that's how I do your book. And then I got to chapter 2 and I was like, okay, now I'm gonna go try this. And my son, I was talking about, I think we were on the phone or something, and my son goes, oh, Mommy, isn't Cami the woman that wrote Mingle to Millions? I was like, wow, a 9-year-old is actually connected to the story behind it.
That's cool. I did a TV interview about a month ago in Manchester, and I walked in and this guy said, I know you, I see you on Facebook. And I thought he was just pulling my chain. I said, really, who am I? He said, you're the Mingle to Millions lady. And I was like, oh my God, he really does. So, great book. You know, I wrote it because after 5 years in network marketing and thousands of networking meetings that I've been to, hundreds of stages I've been on, I've just met so many people that have a hard time building relationship, making eye contact, building rapport. So difficult. So I wrote it for business, but truly personal too.
Yeah, it's all about communications, you know, and it's all about having your mindset be healthy so that you can continue the conversation.
Well, and really working on yourself.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, how you feel about you is what's coming out in your body language, in the words you're using, in the essence, in your energy. When I walk in a room, I own it.
Yeah.
I don't care where I am or what I'm doing, not because of anything other than the fact that I am so solid with who I am. And people see that and they feel it. So one of the ways I put it is we communicate so that we can. So communicate doesn't mean we're communicating before we open our mouth. So we communicate to conversate so we can collaborate to create income, influence, impact,
Right.
whatever you're wanting to have in the world, resources, relationships, revenue, we're all wanting them in
Right.
one form or another.
Right.
From Mother Teresa to Donald Trump, we all need to have influence, impact, and income.
Right, right. And I think reading your book really brought up a really powerful distinction that I learned at Landmark Education, which is be the thermostat and not the thermometer. Like you walk into a room and that room becomes your temperature. You're not just reading the room, you're running the room. And that's what I really, got out of your book is, okay, how do you like walk into a room and like own it, and how do you become like a celebrity, and have everybody want to be with you?
Part of it is just not being attached to the outcome.
Right.
Because just because I own the space and I attract those that I'm meant to attract, I repel just as many as I attract.
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm not here to serve everyone. You're not here to serve everyone. When I'm online, I'm only looking for one.
Right. Exactly.
There's 100,000, I only want the one.
Right.
And when I walk into a business setting, 30, 50, 100 people, there's 2,
Yeah.
maybe 3.
Yeah.
I did a speak last week on Tuesday, 75 people in the room.
Yeah.
2 of them came straight over to me and hired me
Right.
to the tune of $6,000 a piece on the spot.
Right.
The others, that's okay.
Right.
Some
Yeah.
people just aren't ready for the Cami Baker experience.
Exactly. It's funny. I got this woman a job when I used to work at Panera, and she had turned our CEO down. And then I went back in and I said, "No, I think this woman is your executive assistant. I will go talk to her, and I'm going to talk her into taking the job." And I did. And her first day at work, I was like, "Hey, welcome." And I had always loved her. I just thought she was like the cat's meow. And she goes, "I have something to admit to you." And she goes, "I used to hate you." And it was really, really interesting because I was like, oh my gosh. And this was like the whole conversation about what did I do, And she goes, "You would walk in like you owned the place." And I was like, I didn't really think I owned the place, but I knew I was on task and I had things to do and I had things to accomplish and I was always welcoming and warm and friendly to everybody, And she goes, "And then you got me this job, and basically I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life, and I have health insurance, and I have, a 401k, and I have, long-term disability." I don't even know what that is. I mean, this is like the conversation I had with her. And she goes, "I was so wrong." But it's really interesting because there are people that are gonna like you and love you, and then there are people that are not gonna like you, and you don't even know why, And that's always my question in the world is
Be careful with the table.
yeah, is how do you really go out and create affinity with as many people as possible?
Well, and once again, you're not here to create affinity with everyone. You do the best you can. Human nature is, as an animal, we could watch across the prairie and see somebody coming at us, and we would know if they were in our tribe or if we should be afraid of them by their body language.
Right.
So you can be in a room and see people that attract you and people that repel you.
Yeah.
So just be, I don't do anything deliberately to turn people off, but at the same time, I'm not desperately trying to get them to like me. Would you like me?
Right.
And there was a point when I was getting on stages that I wanted to make sure everybody liked me, and I would want everyone to like what I have, and but the fact is, you're just not going to attract everybody ever. You're never going to.
Right.
So just be. For me, it's more about just being present.
Right.
Just being present in your own body, in your own skin. Business or personal.
Yep.
When I go on a date, there have been times that I've been in desperation mode or lonely mode, or I needed to feel affirmed. I needed to prove myself or be acknowledged and feel beautiful because of somebody else.
Right.
But when I'm really solid in my skin, I'm just like, I'm going to show up. I'm present. I'm just going to be totally observant. I'm going to watch his body language.
Yeah.
The body screams so loudly you can't hear what they're saying.
Right. So where can we find you? You have a website?
Website, CamiBaker.com, mingletomillions.com, goes to the same place.
Facebook page,
Facebook, LinkedIn, Carrier Pigeon, Smoke Signal, Instagram, all of it.
Perfect.
And you talk about personal branding. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to be available, real, raw, relatable.
Right.
You got to be there for people to find you.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much for being here. What a great conversation.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We always have fun.
We do. So, Thank you all for joining us today. We are wrapping up for the night, and in our next show, we're going to be talking about some of the common mistakes, some of the ways to identify a good match, and some of the ways to identify things that aren't going to work. So we are looking forward to our next show, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. Have a great day.